like just yesterday that I started this research project.
Yeah, time flies when you're exploring uncharted territories of consciousness, huh?
No, like it literally feels like just yesterday. My last explicit conscious memories in relation to a sense of self are from 4 years ago when I started this research project.
I'm here today with Kristin Windsor, who just completed a 4-year case study after many, many years of implicit health challenges that were ineffectively addressed by medical professionals across multiple states. Thank you so much for taking time to be here, Kristin Windsor. It is an honor to connect with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such a blessed opportunity, such a divine privilege to be here and get to share my work. So thank you so much for having me and creating this space for me.
When did your research begin and what brought you to this exploration?
Yeah, so I'd been researching psychology for a very long time. I started to dive into it in 2011 when I was still continuing to struggle with battles that were just not being addressed by the mental health care system. And then in 2014, when these battles became disabling, I dove even deeper into psychology research. This official project, though, began in 2017 when I started to research neuroscience. After realizing that psychology and the existing mental health care system simply did not have the answers I was looking for, I decided to explore other routes of learning. And so I dove into neuroscience research, quit all mental health care treatments, and then began to create my own healing path while exploring these case studies to try and understand what was happening inside of me, and from that knowledge create effective healing modalities. And I was gratefully able to do just that.
What was the focus of your research?
Yeah, so my research started by just wanting to understand what I was going through. I had been having these indescribable experiences for most of my life, and nobody knew what was happening. Over 100 doctors had never been able to provide an explanation for any of my experiences. And so that left me feeling very isolated and alone and confused. And above all, it really took a toll on my sense of self-worth because I thought that my identity was these health challenges that had no answers. And so I was on this quest to understand what was happening inside of me. Ultimately, though, the research ended up focusing on implicit memories, attachment systems, and how they interact to affect brain-body regulation. So there's various patterns and protocols inside of our body, like how our heart pumps blood throughout our brain and our body. And my studies specifically focused on how implicit memories affect our sense of self and navigation through current and potential moments, and how attachment systems interplay with implicit memories, and how implicit memories and attachment systems affect brain-body operations.
Would you mind explaining each of those topics a little more?
Yeah, definitely. I can break this down. So implicit memories. Okay, so let's talk about memories first of all. When you think of a memory, what comes to mind? Okay, maybe you're like, okay, I've got this to-do list or this shopping list, or you think of that one time you went to the zoo and fed the giraffes. Those are explicit conscious memories, and that's typically what we think of when we think about memories. But that is actually a really, really small portion of our memories. The majority of our memories exist and operate unconsciously. And so every single moment of our lives even that very first day of existence as a little baby, and experiences of crawling when you're a few months old, and that one time when you were asleep 10 years ago in the middle of the night. Every single moment of experience is stored as implicit memory data inside of our brain and our body. And memories have absolutely nothing to do with storing the past. Neurobiologically, memories exist to provide navigation within present and potential moments as we understand our sense of self and our reality, and how our sense of self interacts with reality. All of that information is unconsciously coming from implicit memories. And so there's two main types of implicit memories. Emotional memories just store sensations. And so what happens a lot of time is we're moving through life and we'll have a moment where we feel an emotional sensation. More often than not, that's actually the activation of an implicit memory affecting brain-body operations and projecting an experience into the present moment. More often than not, the emotional sensations we automatically encounter are stemming from implicit memory activations that are affecting brain-body regulation. More often than not, the feelings we feel here and now have nothing to do with the here and now and everything to do with data gathered during a past moment. The other type of implicit memory are implicit procedural memories. And these they're like a type of muscle memory. They hold learned motor skills and action patterns or innate movement programs. So these are stored inside of our implicit memories. So as we move through life, the way that our body naturally understands how to proceed through unfolding moments has to do with implicit procedural memory data. And so for example, when you're walking and you approach a building, are you like, oh my God, it's some structure that I can never get into? No, your eyes kind of scan along, locate a door, and you instinctively move towards the door. Upon approaching the door, you instinctively reach for the knob or the handle, and you turn a knob and the door moves inward or outward. And then a part of this building opens up to let you in. The understanding about all of that comes from implicit memory data. Without that data, the body would approach a building and be like, oh my God, it's some structure and I don't know what it is and I don't know how to interact with it and I don't know how to get inside. The ability to recognize a door, understand that it's a part of the wall that actually moves, understanding that reaching for the doorknob and turning it creates this subsequent result of the door being able to move so that you can move through the wall instead of the wall remaining closed, basically. And so just the understanding about moving through that process completely comes from implicit procedural memories. And so neuroscience discovered that 80% of decision making stems from implicit procedural memories. And so when we go and choose a snack, for example, we open up the kitchen cupboard or whatever modality our snacks are stored in, right? We open it up and we look inside and we think that we're in a brand new moment of experience making a conscious choice. But that's not the whole picture. At most, at best, if our prefrontal cortex is lit up like a wildfire, only 20% of choice in that moment will be made consciously. And this is a really big deal because if all of the thoughts and the feelings that we're experiencing, all of the sensations and the emotions, and like most of our decisions, if it's all coming from implicit memories being projected beyond our awareness, how often are we actually fully experiencing a brand new moment. So implicit memories was a big part of my research focus, and it's fascinating, and I am still trying to process this, I'll be perfectly honest, but a big reason that my research ended up focusing on this is because I lost the ability to create conscious explicit memories for 3 years. And during that time, it was this gradual process about understanding how my brain and my body were processing memories. Like, okay, if I can't remember yesterday, did that exist? Like, does my brain and my body know about it? And basically, long story short, I was able to first-handedly witness and learn about how my body, my unconscious, miraculous body, was storing every single second of my experience, even though my mind could not get to that knowledge. And that was like just indescribably profound to learn about that in such an intimate way. Our body doesn't understand a sense of linear time instinctively. Any information that is inside of the body is now. It's now, and 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 it's now. There is no such thing as then, and there is no such thing as a potential then that could be. There's just now, and there's just now, and there's just now, and there's just now. And so these implicit memories were projecting decades of sensations and action patterns into immediate experience, but I didn't actually have any grounded presence in the moment. It was just a collage of energetic projections. And the way that my brain and my body were processing new memories was also in this sense of fragments of experience. Like, I would remember an abstract sensation of a thought or an abstract sensation of one sight or one texture, but there was no context. There was no surrounding detail. And even these fragments of sensations had no connection with a sense of self. So for example, I might remember a door. And I can picture a door, a very specific door. But there was no sense of self that was opening the door. There was no sense of self that was experiencing the moment. There was no conceptualization about the surrounding reality where the door was this one thing and then there was all these other things in this same environmental setting. Like, there was no surrounding detail. And so memories are processed through abstract associations. There's not these neat categorical boxes. Instead, it's these abstract, energetic, like an abstract concept and an abstract concept, and then they make linkage through various styles of associations. And so my whole entire life and sense of self and sense of processing reality was through these very abstract, energetic associations rather than through a neatly solidified conceptualization of an organized, integrated memory system or a sense of self or an understanding of self and surrounding world. Implicit memories was the first adventure in my research. The second focus was attachment systems. And so I've been researching psychology for many, many years before I dove into neuroscience. And I had never actually read about attachment systems. It wasn't something that was talked about. And that baffles me. That baffles me because attachment systems are very, very important. They are the structure to understanding our brain and our body and any type of implicit health, including mental health. And so attachment systems are the energetic space where experiences of love sculpt abstract neurobiological blueprints into specific brain-body wiring through which we personally encounter life. And so we're born with this brain and this body, this miraculously beating heart, this, these neurobiological structures, but there's no data input in them yet. There's no sense of self existing in that moment as we're born into this world. And so this abstract brain-body system undergoes these miraculous processes of being wired into a specific style of the being through experiences of love, especially focusing on caregiver bonding. And so attachment systems are literally vibrations of love inside of our brains and our bodies. Experiences of love create energetic vibrations that our body stores. And attachment systems are super important. They connect our mind and our body, including our unconscious mind with our unconscious body and our conscious mind with our unconscious body-mind. And so attachment systems really affect how we understand our sense of self and sense of reality. Implicit memories and attachment systems interact to affect brain-body regulations. And so the way that our body instinctively understands how to move blood throughout our brain and our body, for example, or how to intake and process oxygen, those come from protocols from implicit memories that are affected by attachment systems. That's what my work ended up really focusing on these past few years.
What did you learn during your case studies, or what were some conclusions that they led to?
Yeah, so my research led to several new discoveries, and it was a combination of learning about neuroscience, studying my experiences, and slowly drawing some new connections. And so the conclusions I came to were not things I directly learned from other sources. They were new things that I kind of figured out by piecing together my experience in relation to what I was learning from neuroscience. So the first thesis or conclusion or discovery I came to along this miraculous case study exploration was that attachment systems may be described through 4 distinct regions, and each attachment system carries specific internal needs, and the fulfillment or lack of fulfillment of these specific needs within 4 distinct attachment systems affect our brain and our body in an extravagantly profound way. And so our first attachment system needs a felt sense of being seen, loved, treasured, appreciated, and celebrated. Our second attachment system needs a felt sense of safety, security, protection, and provision. Our third attachment system needs a felt sense of connection, support, vulnerable closeness, and collaborative community. Our fourth attachment system needs a felt sense of respect, recognition, embrace, allowance or permission, directional guidance, and opportunistic space. And these 4 attachment systems sculpt various regions of neural wiring that create distinct styles of personal experiences for various regions of subconscious parts. And I've created new diagrams of consciousness to express these concepts in a much more detailed, expansive, and visual way. And you can learn more about that in my new book titled Liberated Consciousness. The well-being of each of these 4 attachment systems manifests through certain styles of implicit experiences, By recognizing very specific clues of consciousness, the well-being of each attachment system can be distinctly identified. And individuals can learn to recognize, okay, this attachment system is thriving, this attachment system is having kind of a tough time, so let me place my healing focus here. And so there's clues of consciousness from each of these attachment systems. And you can explore original explorations of this concept through my website. I have a free gift that you can download, and it links with a video on my YouTube channel. But then you can find out more details and updated information in my new book, Liberated Consciousness. So every time I start a sentence with the word so, it's actually representation of my unconscious body-mind shifting from unconscious self-sense to conscious self-sense, or my unconscious sense of identity to my conscious sense of identity. You can find more about these ideas in my Liberated Consciousness diagram that's explained in depth in my new book, Liberated Consciousness. But it's so funny to notice that every time I start a sentence with the word so, it's actually coming from activation of a specific region of neural wiring as my brain shifts its modalities of operation to try and help me access certain information about what I'm trying to articulate right now. It's so neat to me. Neuroscience of the human experience, am I right? My second thesis or conclusion or discovery was about the relationship between attachment systems and implicit memories. And this was like so mind-bogglingly profound because it explained every single moment of my life in a way that psychology and neuroscience and millions of different resources and interactions and people and doctors and documentaries and so many things had never, ever, ever been able to explain. So what I discovered was that the well-being of attachment systems affects the processing of memories. And memories unconsciously create information and various styles of messages, action patterns, sensations, etc. in relation to attachment well-being. Part of this also, and I'll talk about each of those, but the other thing is that activation of this unconscious information profoundly affects how new information becomes processed. So let me break down these three things for you. So the first one is that attachment well-being affects the processing of memories. So memories, there are various styles of abstract associations, right? So there's the concept of a cat and a concept of being happy. And they make an association, and you see a cat and it activates implicit data and you think, I feel happy. And it's a very instinctive automatic thing. What happens when you have a moment of life where a cat suddenly bites you? Okay, you're petting this cat, you're in this moment, and everything's good. This soft, fluffy, furry, just fantastic creature, right? You're just enjoying this beautiful moment, and all of a sudden, this cat turns around and bites your hand, and you're feeling pain, and you're bleeding, and you're feeling panic in your body, and you're feeling stress, and you just want to like throw the cat off you, and like the whole moment suddenly shifts to a completely different style of automated internal experience. Well, what happened in that moment was suddenly an attachment need was not fulfilled, and it shifted the styles of neurobiological activity. Suddenly, you're not feeling connected and safe. You're feeling threatened and unsafe in a moment, unconsciously. You're not consciously like, oh no, I'm not safe. Your unconscious body is like, oh my God, I'm not safe. Unconsciously. So it doesn't go through a narrative of thinking that, but it goes through a sensational process of feeling that. And so in that moment, okay, there's this moment, this instant moment where the attachment need of feeling safe, again, it's very much feeling. It doesn't matter if you're factually safe. It matters if the unconscious body, mind feels, sensationally feels safe. So in this instant where the cat suddenly bites you, there's not a felt sense of safety in that moment. Okay, so attachment well-being affects memory processing. What happens in that moment is the experiential elements regarding the abstract conceptualizations of a cat become processed in a way that the neural data does not harmoniously couple. Harmonious coupling is the term that I use to describe integrated associations, where neural data has this distinction and can very fluidly, energetically collaborate and communicate unconsciously as energy of self-essence flows through the neurobiological wiring while life is being processed and translated and projected into the immediate sense of reality. And so this moment, there was not a felt sense of safety, so the experiential elements are not able to harmoniously couple, and instead they either experience overcoupling or undercoupling. And so if there's overcoupling, then the associations between the abstract conceptualization of a cat and something else end up creating an association like cat and fear or cat and pain. Then anytime you see a cat, the unconscious body mind is going to understand the cat in relation to this information. And there's going to be a sense of hesitancy. You might not approach the cat and just casually pet it. You might just kind of be over here like, okay, please don't approach me, cat. And it's not happening consciously, it's happening in the unconscious body mind. Attachment well-being affects how memories become processed. This is really important. This is one of the biggest things I discovered. Attachment well-being in each moment affects how our memories become processed. And memories, again, are about how we navigate our sense of self in present and potential moments, which means that when there's moments of life that don't have fulfillment of attachment needs, then the memory data created there might subsequently disrupt unconscious navigation regarding sense of self and processing of personal life and experience. And that's where we get different kinds of implicit battles or mental, emotional, or action pattern or behavioral health challenges.
Moments lacking fulfillment of any or all attachment needs disrupts the processing of experiential elements gathered during those moments to be processed into the neural wiring. And this can create overcoupling, or where neural data overcouples, and then there's too many associations and it disrupts the navigation that's provided by this neural wiring. And or it can cause undercoupling, or neural data undercouples, and there's not enough associations, and then it can't provide navigation during life. And so this can happen in seemingly small moments, like being lost in a store as a child or being yelled at by someone. And in those instantaneous moments, I'm talking nanoseconds, because that's how quickly life elements are being processed and translated into energetic data that's stored in the body. So it's not like 1 hour creates an experiential element that's placed in neural wiring. Every nanosecond is gathering a new piece of energetic intel and incorporating that into the unconscious neural wiring. And this neural wiring is how we understand our navigation through identity and experience moving forward. So in nanoseconds, in that instantaneous moment, there might not be a felt sense of support or safety. Again, like if you're lost in a store for a moment and you're like, wait a second, where am I? In that nanosecond, the unconscious body mind is like, oh my goodness, I'm not safe. I'm not being provided for. I'm not supported in this moment. And it's very, very unconscious. The conscious self isn't necessarily like, oh my God, this is a threat to my life. But the unconscious body mind doesn't feel safe in that moment. And it can be that instantaneous nanosecond where 30 seconds later, you're like, oh, okay, wait, I know where I am. And you could reset really quickly. But the experiential elements gathered in those like few seconds there
are not able to be effectively processed. Or if someone's yelling at you in that moment, you might consciously be like, okay, this isn't a pleasant experience. But meanwhile, your unconscious body mind is like, oh my God, I'm not safe. I'm being attacked. And they're two separate worlds. The conscious self is having a completely different experience than what the unconscious body mind is going through. So while the conscious self is up here like, oh my goodness, this person is so annoying, they're just laying into me. The unconscious body mind is like, oh my God, I'm being attacked, I'm not safe. Two completely separate realities. And the conscious self is up here understanding these automated interpretations of reality. Meanwhile, the unconscious body mind is gathering data that affects all of life moving forward. So it's kind of a big deal that we tap into this hidden reality. So in that moment where someone's yelling at you, the experiential elements gathered during those moments are not effectively processed. Those moments where attachment needs are not fulfilled disrupt how newly absorbed experiential elements undergo translative processes to become energetic pieces of data within the cells of our bodies. And that can create undercoupling or overcoupling. So this can happen in seemingly small scenarios, little everyday type mishaps, especially when it happens as a child. Things that are seemingly small are always a bigger deal to a child because of the way their neurodevelopment is in those formative stages. Something that happens to an adult, like getting lost in a store, is not going to be as big of a deal as if that happens when you're a child, okay? So it could be everyday kind of seemingly small type scenarios, or it could be really big capital T traumas. So any type of moment or moments or scenarios where it's a nanosecond or a continued experience, but any type of experience where there's not a felt sense in the unconscious body mind of attachment need fulfillment, of any or all attachment needs, then all of the different energetic pieces of information, sight, sounds, taste, textures, thoughts, feelings, all of it are not able to be effectively processed, and it disrupts the storage of that information within the cells and the neural networks of our body. Okay, the other part of this is that this is so amazing. I was so excited to discover this. It explains so much. Memories unconsciously formulate action patterns and sensational responses regarding identity and personal life, so the sense of self and how the self interacts with the world, in relation to attachment needs. So you have this moment of an unfulfilled attachment need, then the memory data might create an action pattern to try and fulfill that attachment need, or might create an action pattern trying to survive the lack of this fulfillment. So for example, there might be a lack of feeling safe in the unconscious body mind, and the conscious self is not going to directly know about this. There is no direct knowledge that the unconscious body mind doesn't feel safe. There might be a general sense of like irritability or frustration here and there, whatever. But the conscious self does not ever have direct access to understanding the well-being of attachment systems. So this is all in the unconscious brain body in a very deeply unconscious way. So let's say the attachment systems lack a felt sense of safety, security, protection, and provision. One day, this sensation is coming up unconsciously. The fingernails start to dig into the skin. It's just kind of an automated reaction because the energy needs to be channeled somewhere. There's kind of just this sense of restlessness and tension, and you just kind of instinctively start digging your fingernails into your skin, okay? Just hypothetically here, okay? In this moment, there might be a sense of relief, and then the unconscious memory system creates an action pattern, understanding that inducing physical pain can help survive this lack of feeling safe unconsciously. And this could provoke a habit like self-harm. And it could be minor self-harm, like fingernails digging into the skin, or it might end up being something more major in the realm of self-harm. But what's happening there is implicit memories are formulating action patterns unconsciously in relation to attachment needs. And all of this is happening completely unconsciously. The awareness of attachment well-being, the implicit memory data, the formation of implicit memory data, the activation of this information, all of it is happening completely unconsciously. And so even if the conscious self has an awareness of, I am digging my fingernails into my skin, the conscious self will not be able to understand why. There will not be access to that information consciously. It's happening in the unconscious body-mind. The third important piece of this aspect of my thesis and conclusions from my case studies is that the activation of implicit memory data from moments of unfulfilled attachment needs reduces the ability for new experiential elements to become effectively processed. So for example, you're moving through a moment of life. In that exact moment, the person is completely safe, totally connected, loved and supported, respected and embraced. But in that moment, their unconscious neural data is accessing implicit memories from a past moment where attachment needs were not fulfilled, and using that information to navigate the current moment regarding self and life. But it is happening unconsciously. The conscious self does not understand that implicit memory data from moments of feeling unsafe or unsupported or disconnected or disrespected, whatever it might be. The conscious self does not know that that neural data is affecting their unfolding moments as they understand who they are and how they're interacting with the world. When this happens, the new moment where all attachment needs are totally fulfilled, everything's super fine and going great, in that moment might not be effectively processed because the activation of neural data from past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs is how the new moment is being interpreted unconsciously. And so activation of implicit data from past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs reduces the ability for new moments to be effectively processed. Another important insight is that new moments of unfulfilled attachment needs can disrupt the wiring of previously sculpted memories. And this especially occurs during early stages of neurodevelopment. So for example, if there's a traumatic event that occurs at age 4, then memories sculpted around 6 months old may become disrupted in their neural organization. It kind of goes both ways. New moments of unfulfilled attachment needs can disrupt past wiring and new wiring, and the activation of data from past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs projects that information and disrupts the processing of new experiential elements into neural data. My second conclusion, thesis, or discovery in this case study was that attachment systems affect the processing of memories. Memories create sensations and action patterns within implicit data in relation to attachment needs. And the activation of this information unconsciously affects how new moments are processed into pieces of neural wiring. My third discovery in this healing journey was how implicit memory data filed in accordance with the well-being of attachment systems based on the fulfillment of internal needs affects brain-body operations, including various styles of activation and regulation. The manner in which our brain hemispheres know how to connect and communicate, the way that our front brain understands how to communicate and connect with our hindbrain, the way that our autonomic nervous system knows how to regulate and communicate within itself and within various other systems, communication within and beyond the central nervous system, instinctive regulation of hormones and neurotransmitters. All of these different miraculous brain-body modalities of operation are directly dependent on implicit memory wiring, which depends upon attachment well-being. So the way that my heart knows how to beat and move blood throughout my brain and my body has less to do with the organ of my heart and more to do with the implicit memory data throughout my systems that are stored in relation to attachment well-being, which depends on how experiences of love, beginning during early childhood development, have allowed various internal needs to be fulfilled. And so past moments where there was not a felt sense of safety, for example, will have created implicit memory data or neural wiring that will continue affecting my heart's ability to understand how to move blood throughout my body. It is so miraculous. The sculpting of implicit memories based on attachment well-being affect integrative patterns of the brain and regulatory protocols of the body. And this affects everything, literally everything. The way these implicit memories are wired based on attachment need fulfillment determines brainwave regulation, nervous system regulation in the central nervous system, the enteric nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, the somatic nervous system, the way that blood flows, the way that muscles engage in the face and the body, the way that cranial nerves function, oxygen flow, blood flow, respiration, circulation. The entire manner in which our brain and our body know how to energetically flow entirely stems from implicit memories that are organized dependent on attachment well-being. Among the infinite processes that are affected are emotions. The way we instinctively experience emotions has to do with implicit neural wiring. Implicit memories in relation to attachment well-being activate the brain and the body in a certain way. And so from the projection of implicit emotional memories to regulatory patterns in the endocrine system, the way that we instinctively encounter our own sensations and feelings and emotions has to do with the wiring of these implicit memories connected with attachment well-being that affect brain-body operations. I just gotta say, it is so just so trippy to share this stuff because I haven't been lucid for most of my research. I've only been gradually regaining memories about how I even got all these conclusions as I've been going through my work. I have over 2,500 notes on my phone, thousands of audio recordings, like over 2,000 video recordings. I filled 30 notebooks and 10 binders with my writings. And I have hundreds, if not thousands, of notes on my laptop. During that whole process, these past several years, my brain and my body have not been processing information explicitly or consciously. it's wild. It's just really wild. I just gotta be honest. It's so trippy to be an explicit person who is proclaiming information from a sense of self. That is not an experience I have had access to in several years. So trippy. So my fourth discovery or thesis statement or conclusion during these explorations is that neurobiological wiring, or the structures throughout our brain and body system, can be understood through an organization of social engagement and disengagement roles. So basically you can think of like implicit memory data being stored in relation to attachment systems that consequentially or subsequently affects brain-body modalities of operation, engagement, and regulation. And that reality can then be understood through different social engagement and disengagement roles. We have emotional intimacy, physical health, emotional health, mutual support, cooperation, casual friendships, rest and restitution, and parent-child bonding from the perspective of the child, and parent-child bonding from the perspective of the parent or the caregiver. And then those are social engagement roles, and this is referring to the polyvagal theory in particular. And then we have social disengagement roles, and that's where you get different kinds of stress responses within our nervous system that affect all kinds of internal operations. Social disengagement roles include the attach or cry for help stress response, as the social engagement system gradually shifts from socially engaged to socially disengaged, shifting from regulation to a stress response. After the cry for help or attach stress response in the social disengagement roles, then there's the flight stress response, the fight stress response, the freeze stress response, the fold stress response, and the blackout stress response, which is basically a combination of different stress responses where conscious presence is completely inaccessible. And to express these ideas, I've created the spectrum of traumatic response, which you can find out more about in the description of this video. And so there's all these different social engagement and disengagement roles, and neural wiring can be understood in relation to these specific roles as implicit memories provide unconscious navigation regarding self and life in relation to attachment well-being, and the activation of this neural data affects how our brain and our body are regulating itself within the unconsciousness, how blood is flowing, how different regions of the brain are lighting up and talking with one another. All of that has to do with the activation of this neural wiring, and it can be understood through this construct of social engagement and disengagement roles. The neurobiological organization of the social engagement system especially seems to be rooted in the brainstem, where implicit memories interact with cranial nerves, affecting everything from facial features to decision-making tendencies and abilities. We can explore the neuroscience of psychology in this way. So we've got memories where experiential elements are gathered during each nanosecond of our unfolding life, even when we're a very young child and things are being processed implicitly, and even during very seemingly insignificant moments, like where you're standing in a line at a grocery store or you're falling asleep at night. Every nanosecond of our experience is gathering experiential elements from inner and outer realities. So thoughts, feelings, sensations, sights, sounds, tastes, textures, all kinds of different types of stimulus, internal and external. Stimulus ranges along a vibrational spectrum of explicit and implicit stimulus. And so all these experiential elements are being gathered during every nanosecond of life, translated into memories, and this provides navigation through unfolding moments regarding our identity and experience. That our memories are what translate every second of experience. Memories are processed in relation to attachment, well-being, and then this information, this neural wiring, affects integrated patterns of the brain and regulatory protocols of the body. So experiential elements processed into this brain-body system, and that affects our navigation within the unconscious mind and regulation within the unconscious body. And then this further complexity stems in here. Every portion of neural wiring is affiliated with a distinct role within the neurobiological social engagement system. Here's where stuff gets super cool. Depending on the role that the neural wiring is affiliated with, it will unconsciously carry different styles of priorities. This is where the neuroscience of psychology can be explored in deep, dynamic, detailed depth. So let's say that there's a portion of neural wiring and it's affiliated with the role of emotional intimacy within the neurobiological social engagement system. The way that this neural wiring generates information is going to be very, very, very different from neural wiring affiliated with the social disengagement role of a fight-stress response, just as one of infinite examples. And as this neural wiring is providing information, it's affecting brainwave regulation of every nervous system, central, somatic, enteric, autonomic. It's affecting hormones and neurotransmitters. It's affecting everything, muscular engagement, facial features, the way that the body naturally poses itself, the way that the spine is when it sits and stands, the way that the head naturally sits on the neck. Literally everything within the unconscious body-mind that contributes to our experience of being a person shifts unconsciously in relation to the neural wiring of the neurobiologic social engagement system, the way the heart beats, the way the blood flows, all of it. And so if you're on a walk, for example, and you unconsciously absorb stimulus of another person who you happen to find attractive, okay, in that moment, neural wiring affiliated with emotional and or physical intimacy is likely to ignite and engage unconsciously. And then that neural data is contributing to automated translations of reality. And then you're like, oh my God, they're so cute. And then your hormones start to change, and your neurotransmitters start to change, and the way that your brain waves are fluctuating changes, and the way that your physical posture changes, and your unconscious body-mind is saying, okay, how can I make myself seem more attractive so I can catch this person's attention? But it's all unconscious, and so there's all these very subtle shifts in the way that the body is navigating identity and reality, and it happens completely, profoundly unconsciously. At most, the conscious self might notice a feeling or might notice a thought. But meanwhile, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of unconscious occurrences responding to the absorption of that stimulus. And you might have the conscious thought or a feeling, but you have no idea that it happened because a vibrational signal of a light wave carrying the conceptualization of this other human being was absorbed by the body, flowing through all of these complex unconscious processes, activated implicit neural wiring affiliated with emotional and or physical intimacy within the neurobiological social engagement system, and then neural wiring sculpted through past experiences over the past 20 years or however long it's been since you've been alive and that role started developing. is projecting implicit information, different types of sensations, and all kinds of unconscious, implicit, energetic data based on abstract associations within the sculpting of memories from past experiential elements. And that's projecting information unconsciously that subconscious parts first-handedly experience, even though the conscious self has no idea about it. And the activation of that neural wiring is adjusting the flow, energetic flow of all brain-body activity and the entire manner in which the whole body-mind is navigating itself shifts. And you don't know about any of that. You don't know about any of that consciously. The conscious self might just notice, ooh, I feel butterflies in my stomach. That person's kind of cute. But you have no idea about all of these hidden realities unfolding beyond awareness. But that's where all the secrets lie. To understanding ourselves, reclaiming our power, and transforming any and all elements of personal experience from the inside out. So then you keep walking down the street and you see another person, and the unconscious body-mind activates a fight stress response. What happens is the unconscious body-mind absorbs this vibrational signal. You see someone, that information is absorbed here, it travels through, it's activating all kinds of things that are stored everywhere throughout the ganglia of the body and all kinds of hidden places in the miraculous brain this consciousness flows through. And it's associated somehow, that person has some abstract association that links with a fight stress response or a social disengagement role of the fight stress response. And then that implicit neural wiring is activated and it projects information and interpretations of reality. And then you might start feeling a little bit uneasy or a little bit irritable or a little bit paranoid, but you don't know why. Okay, and then that implicit activation adjusts the regulation of all brain-body activity, and then your nervous system starts to dysregulate, and then your hormones start to activate stress chemicals, and then there's all these different neurophysiological processes, and you have absolutely no idea about any of it within your conscious awareness. At most, you're up here and you're like, oh, I feel a little uneasy, but you don't know why. It's because a vibrational signal came in and activated implicit neural wiring affiliated with past moments where there wasn't a felt sense of safety, and it engages a fight stress response, and it creates all these different types of thoughts and feelings, and it activates all kinds of different bodily responses, but all of that occurs beyond awareness. And it has to do with the way that implicit neural wiring carries priorities in affiliation with the neurobiological social engagement system. The first example, you see someone and you think they're cute or whatever, okay? You see someone and you find them attractive. In that moment, implicit neural wiring isn't like, oh my God, I need to make sure I'm safe right now. No, that's not a priority in the moment. The priority in that moment is, I need to find me an attractive mate. And that priority unconsciously is affecting how implicit wiring is projecting automated interpretations of reality. But then you keep walking down the street and you have that second occurrence that unconsciously activates the fight stress response as a neurobiological social disengagement role. And in that moment, the unconscious body does not care about finding a mate. Instead, the priority is safety. I need to make sure I'm safe right now. And so each role within the neurobiological social engagement system carries a different type of priority. And depending on the priority affiliated with the role, implicit neural wiring carrying memories of past experiential elements that help to navigate identity and experience, and carrying all these protocols regarding brain-body activity and regulation and integrative patterns, all of that has their own energetic vibrations regarding how they provide navigation and regulation and how they process and interpret each unfolding moment of reality. So we can really understand the dynamic, detailed depth of how this neural wiring is organized by looking at how the neurobiological social engagement system has different roles carrying different priorities and are each connected with different regions of neural wiring, carrying memories regarding navigation and protocols regarding regulation. And different activations of this data based on the absorption of various vibrational signals are what generate unique styles of personal realities, because our personal experiences only ever come from within our neurobiological applications of consciousness. Only ever. And that's why 1,000 people can be at the exact same moment of experience in the exact same place, but they're all having a different experience, personal experience with that moment, because the moment is being translated through neural wiring, and that's what's generating the sense of personal reality. So within the neurobiological social engagement, there's all these roles carrying different priorities, connected with neural wiring, carrying memories and regulatory protocols, and this is where we get personal experience. Part of my theory with this is that every type of thought, feeling, sensation, action pattern, etc. can be traced back to specific regions of neural wiring connected with these different roles carrying distinct styles of priorities. So for example, feeling an urgency to call someone might stem from an attach or cry for help stress response of a social disengagement role. Feeling defensive or irritable or agitated might come from a fight stress response. Feeling hyperactive or restless or impulsive or feeling the need to be elsewhere, feeling slightly manic might come from a flight stress response. Feeling frozen and stuck or unable to move forward, or feeling like you're a fly on the wall and you don't totally exist, might come from a freeze stress response. Feeling depressed or fatigued might come from a fold stress response. Feeling sleepy and calm and relaxed and like you kind of just want to go take a nap might come from the rest and restitution role within the social engagement system. Crushing on someone and feeling butterflies and just emotional whirlwinds might come from the emotional intimacy role within the social engagement system. Feeling sexually turned on by someone might come from the physical intimacy role within the neurobiological social engagement system. When you feel nurturing towards someone, your voice might even shift to a higher octave and you're talking like it's, oh my goodness, like it's a cute little baby or it's a cute little baby animal. That might come from the parent-child bonding from the perspective of the parent or the caregiver role. Feeling the need to ask permission because you don't know what's allowed, or feeling like it's not appropriate to assert yourself might come from the parent-child bonding from the perspective of the child role within the neurobiological social engagement system. Enjoying exercise and feeling like you just want to go for a run or you just want to find a new way to go work out. That idea, those thoughts, those feelings, those sensations, those action patterns might stem from the neural wiring affiliated with the physical well-being role within the neurobiological social engagement system. The big part of this concept is that each role within the neurobiological social engagement system carries distinct styles of agendas or unconscious priorities. And that energetic info within the brain-body blueprint affects how experiential elements are processed and translated into memories, how memories unconsciously navigate identity and experience, and how those regions of neural wiring unconsciously affect brain-body regulation. This neural wiring, organized through various social engagement and disengagement roles, basically explains the neuroscience of psychology. It explains our sense of self and our processing of life experience and various styles of intrapersonal and interpersonal interactions and relationships. The way we instinctively understand who we are, the way we instinctively understand the world around us, and the way we unconsciously comprehend and engage with how this self interacts with this world completely stems from the activation of neural wiring, which is organized in this very complex, miraculous system of social engagement and disengagement roles. As implicit neural wiring affiliated with the well-being of attachments connects with different styles of brain-body regulations and operations. leads me to my fifth thesis statement or discovery or conclusion in my case study research is that implicit health refers to mental, emotional, relational, spiritual, action pattern, and behavioral health. So 6 components are implicit health. All of these different aspects of implicit health directly stem from the well-being of our unconscious body-mind in relation to how implicit memories provide navigation within these various social engagement and disengagement roles in relation to attachment, health, or well-being, which depends on the fulfillment of specific internal needs, and how this information affects brain-body operations unconsciously. Implicit health comes down to neural wiring filed in accordance with these different social engagement and disengagement roles with implicit memories, attachment systems, and brain-body regulatory patterns and protocols. So this leads me to my sixth thesis statement or conclusion or discovery is that I believe that every single implicit battle or health challenge can be traced back to implicit memories created during past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs. And what happens is activation of this unconscious neural data disrupts navigation regarding sense of self and processing of life experience. And that affects the regulatory patterns and protocols within the unconscious brain and body. So for example, panic attacks. When you have a panic attack, it's because some piece of stimulus activated implicit neural data that was created during a past moment without attachment need fulfillment, such as a past moment where there was not a felt sense of safety and security within the unconscious body-mind. And the activation of that implicit data is projecting sensations into immediate realities while affecting brain-body regulatory patterns and protocols. And so the heart might start to race, the way the blood's flowing might change, there might be racing thoughts and sensations of fear. All of that is coming from implicit emotional and procedural memories created during past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs. Dermatillomania is another great example. It's skin picking. What's happening there is when someone picks at their skin, it's coming from an implicit procedural memory with an action pattern of skin picking. That information was created during a past moment of unfulfilled attachment needs. The conscious self doesn't know about the implicit memory data, doesn't know about the activation of the unconscious action pattern, doesn't know about the lack of attachment need fulfillment, doesn't know about any of this stuff because it's all happening unconsciously. At most or at best, the conscious self will recognize I am picking at my skin, but there won't be an awareness about why or how to respond to it or how to stop it, because even the action of it is coming from unconscious wiring that's happening, it's existing and operating. It dwells and becomes ignited beyond conscious awareness and knowledge and control. Trichotillomania is the same thing. When someone's pulling at their hair unconsciously, it's happening unconsciously. They're not consciously like, I'm gonna just pull my hair out. Like, that's not what happens at all. It's coming from an implicit procedural memory created during a past moment of unfulfilled attachment needs. Substance abuse is another one. When someone goes to use a substance, the majority of that choice is occurring unconsciously. And I'm not saying that we don't have any conscious power in this. I'm not saying that people don't have a choice. That's not what I'm saying. People always have a choice in the moment. People always have a choice, an opportunity to choose something different. We always have that power. But the inclination to go take a drink or to go use these pills or whatever it might be, the way that the brain and the body are creating these suggestions and creating these urges and creating these desires and creating these impulses, all of that is stemming from implicit memory data that was created during past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs. And the conscious self doesn't know that instinctively. When there's a thought of, I want to have a drink, the conscious self doesn't know, oh, this is activation of an implicit memory from a past moment where there wasn't a fulfillment of attachment needs, and that information is affecting how I understand my sense of self and life. That information is not accessible to the conscious self. But if it was, maybe people could have a little more power in how they move through their moments. Because in the moment, it's going to feel like this is happening now. But when we understand that our thoughts and our feelings are coming from unconscious memory activations, we can distinguish the newness of this immediate moment from the completion of past moments where these ideas are coming from, and have more power to be present with our consciousness to rewire neural data, creating these sensations. Another example of an implicit health challenge is suicidality. This is a very, very deeply misunderstood topic in the world. When someone is experiencing suicidal ideations, which means that thoughts and feelings are suggesting suicide in one way or another, in those moments, those sensations are coming from the activation of implicit memory data, emotional sensations, somatic sensations, and action patterns or suggestions for a decision. They're coming from activation of implicit memory data that had been created, that was created, developed, formulated. This section of neural wiring was shaped during a past moment where attachment needs were not fulfilled. And so when someone's experiencing suicidality, these thoughts and feelings are coming from neural wiring. But there is not an instinctive ability to consciously know about that. And so how can we have conscious choice in this stuff and conscious understanding about how to respond if we don't know where it's coming from? If someone has a feeling or an inclination towards suicide, how can they respond to that if they don't know where that sensation is coming from? So understanding the neuroscience of implicit health is really important. Every 40 seconds, another person's life ends from suicide. And that person did not genuinely want to die. Instead, it was because of implicit memory data disrupting unconscious navigation regarding self and life because of unfulfilled attachment needs. I believe that all implicit health challenges directly stem from implicit memory data, implicit neural wiring rooted in unfulfilled attachment needs that's disrupting unconscious navigation regarding self and life. Because memories don't store the past, they project interpretations of present and potential moments regarding self and the world. And that activation is subsequently affecting brain-body regulation modalities of operation.